Get my drink.
All right, welcome everybody. Dave Delavandi here with Caldwell Banker Residential, and this should be, I think, number 3 in my series. I'm calling it Business Not As Usual video series, and talking about life before, during, and after COVID. And today I have Patrick O'Neill with Bridge Title with me. Hey, Patrick, how you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Good, good. Patrick is the owner and president of Bridge Title, and I will tell you that I don't always have a choice of the title company that I use. My clients choose that, but I try to let them know about Bridge Title, because the main thing is everything goes smooth. Like I've never had any closing get delayed. Everything's always there, and I really appreciate that. And also, when you call, you actually get a person that you don't get a dial 2 for this and dial 3 for this. You actually get to speak to the people there, so I appreciate that as well.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your loyalty.
Yeah, no, thank you for everything you do. So, yeah, so Patrick, I just wanted to just take a few minutes and kind of talking to local business owners, nonprofits, folks in the area, Prince William County, Northern Virginia in general, kind of getting an idea of what's been going on. Let's talk BC first, before Corona or before COVID.
So,
how are things operating?
Before Corona, I would say literally like right before Corona, things were insane. So we had just had interest rate cuts on a federal level, which then trickled down to a micro level, local level, and we were seeing rates that were touching into the twos. And it was insane. So the refinance boom that sort of spurred from that was huge. I mean, we in the month of February and really into March, so take mid-February to mid-March timeframe. So just before, I would say, we really got a taste of the coronavirus effects here in the U.S. Our business tripled in that month. So
Wow.
we had the best month that we had ever had in business since 2007 in that one month time frame. Talking right before this lovely pandemic that we're currently undergoing. So I would say the real estate market was booming. I mean, it was insane. So before Corona, we really expected to probably have a huge 2020. That was pre-coronavirus. I would say then leading into the month of March, so take that March 15th mark to April 15th, and we were still busy. Busy on the front end because you had the 30-day period that I'm talking about before that, that ekes into the actual closing time frame. So our revenue, from a revenue standpoint, this last 30 days has been excellent. I'll let you talk about going forward. It looks like it might be a little shifted from where we were, but we still had people that were going under contract on houses, still refinancing through the first, 30 days of this. So I don't know if that's because people were at home and they were taking advantage of like, well, I guess it'll be easy for me to send all my documentation into my lender because I'm here and not focused on maybe other things. But I mean, it was busy. The spring market was looking like it was going to be super busy.
That's my theory, is I think on the refi, because I've been talking to a lot of lenders and they're all busy with refis. And I think people are home and they're looking at their budget and what can I do? And like, hey, wow, let's look at the rates. Oh my goodness, they're in the low 3s. Okay.
Right.
And I got plenty of time on my hands. I can pull up my tax records and all this, and they're refining like crazy right now.
Oh yeah.
So,
It's sort of crazy to me to think that we're in the middle of this, but when from a macro level, from the top down, I sort of say as the pundits are used to saying, depending on where your focus is oh, we're in a recession. Well, I mean, from a technical standpoint, maybe. I'm not seeing it on the real estate end of things,
right.
Simply because I think we may have a shortage of purchases in this moment, because I mean, obviously there are concerns about showing houses, going through someone's house, those things that are sort of natural given the circumstances. But I think from the other standpoint of real estate and mortgages is you have people that are totally taking advantage of historically low interest rates. And I think that is spurring the real estate market as we sit now. That's just my opinion.
And my hope is I think the spring market is basically just going to be shifted by a couple of months, because the inventory right now, I looked at the inventory. The inventory is about half of what it was the same month last year. but they're still, days on market is still under 30 days. They're still selling. I mean, the market is hot. It's just there's less people because they're like, maybe I'll wait. It's an
Right.
emotional thing. And they're like, I'll just wait a couple months and see. And that's kind of where everyone's at right now. But I'm telling people, if you have a house that you want to put on the market, put it on the market. It'll sell. It's going to go.
Right.
The interest rates the way they are, you get a good deal. So.
Well, and I don't know what you're seeing, but like on the title end of things, we're sort of Stone Age. You say BC like before Corona, but we might even be BC in the literal sense in a lot of the ways that we operate. And I mean that because, we're still very, very paper heavy, wet signature heavy on the title end of things.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much of our regulations anymore. In Virginia, since really 2012, my understanding, we've had e-notarization capability on a state level. It just hasn't been able to be really utilized in the real estate market because you have so many players. So you have the mortgage company, you have a courthouse, you have the title company, and then ultimately you have an investor that's buying a mortgage on the secondary market. So you have to comply with all of these other players.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have just said, no, we're not going to do, electronic signatures, and we're not going to do e-notarizations and all of that. So from the title perspective, we're really a little literal BC in that, someone has to come into our office and physically sign documents in front of a notary. And it's not that we don't have that capability. So I think that some of those changes that may come from this are going to be positive.
Yeah. Now we're in the DC environment during Corona. So I assume you've gotten a lot of, you doing things electronically or?
So it's interesting. Half my staff is still in the office. Half my staff is working remotely. Mm-hmm. That brings benefits and complications, all sort of rolled into one. There are pluses and minuses to both. I think that it's nice to know that we can do that. Service, I wouldn't say service has declined. I would say the way that we service has changed. In respect to your turn times. I mean, it used to be that we could get a title search turned in 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Now that might be taking, 10 to 14 days, just because you have a backlog of abstractors that are working, aren't working. You have some courthouses that have capability of you still going there, some that are closed to the public. So there's a lot of variables.
These are out of your control.
Right. But you still get an expected time frame from a client who thinks like, well, I'm going to close in 3 weeks. And you're like, the global pandemic is real, and it really is affecting our turn times. And I would love to tell you that that's possible, but in some instances, it's just not.
Yeah.
Then you have the during Corona with a lot of disinformation. And I hate to bring our interview to a negative place, but I mean, you probably see it in the real estate side. I see it in the title side. I've seen it in the real estate side where people are legitimately, I would say, marketing like their brokerages and stuff during this time frame. And I'm kind of like, okay, I mean, I get it. Maybe it's not the time for, a brokerage to be recruiting new agents. I think that there's a time and a place to maybe call a timeout. And in the title side, I'm seeing, companies say, oh, well, we're totally electronic and we can do everything, remotely. And that's just not true. I mean, it's just not possible. Yeah. There are a lot of things that we can do electronically, like you said. We have the capability to do an e-closing. But most lenders are not going to allow it. Yeah. So even though we have the capability, it's a little disingenuous to tell people that, you can do everything electronically when you can't. So one of the things that we're doing during coronavirus is when you have a closing at our office, we're not doing a lot of remote closings unless there's a significant reason. So say someone who's immunocompromised and doesn't want to go out. We don't want to introduce ourselves necessarily because, unfortunately, I've been in contact with people that I could have been exposed to. I mean, I don't know for certain whether I could be asymptomatic in carrying something. It's the risk that I run going into the office and interacting with people. So we've asked most people to come to our office, and we've asked even most real estate agents to just not attend. It's just better to
Yeah.
prep your client. Hey, here's what's going on. We have the ability to bring you in on a conference call if we need to, but we find that it's just better to say, look, let's keep the least amount of people in our office as possible. And then, believe it or not, in our office, we have our conference room set up with a video chat. So the video chat leads to a feed where I'm talking to you now into my office on my computer in there. And then I have a TV monitor in there that scrolls through the same documents that are in front of the client.
Wow.
Neat notary guidelines in Virginia, it has to occur in your presence. So they're in our presence.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, they have to confirm that they signed them. So
Yeah.
when they're finished, I go in and I say, I'm just confirming that you signed all the documents that are laid in front of you from a notarization standpoint. I can confirm your identity and that you've done that.
That's
So
great.
that way, while I'm explaining this hour-long process, generally, sometimes more, I'm not in a compromised position, and they're not in a compromised position. So they can face mask up if they want, but they don't have to be in the same room as someone else that's talking.
That's fantastic.
So that's one way that we've done that. And then on a lot of seller side transactions, we've done e-closings. We do not have the portal set up from our own standpoint yet. We're working on this. So this is something that during this lovely coronavirus that we're working on is a platform much like this that integrates with the signing software. So Virginia law says that I have to watch you in a video capacity, sign them, and then I have to store that for 5 years. So I have to store that material, and then the certain integrated software, the signing software, has to be integrated into the video platform. So you can't like pull different platforms over and utilize them together. So it's a little complicated, but there are companies out there that have done this. So we contract to those companies. I will say it's been hit or miss because they're so inundated across the country with appointments that you can request an appointment a week and a half out, and you might get confirmation the day before that, yep, it's a go. And then it's like when it's convenient for them. So I tell the clients that want these appointments, I'm like, you're just going to have to be super patient and know that they're going to kind of schedule it, and they're going to tell you really when you're going to have to be in front of your computer to do this. But it's possible. And we've done a couple seller sides like that. It's not possible, like I said, on a buyer side because the mortgage companies just aren't going to allow it. But I think
that's why the buyer's package is this thick and the seller's package
is exactly. So it's a little different. And we've just been absorbing the cost associated with that because, you know, we don't want to do any undue burden on a client, especially when it's not the smoothest end of a transaction. And I'm really not in control. I think that of the roughly 10 or 12 that we've done, I've only been on the video chat once. And I sign up to be on the video chat every time. And it's just sort of like, they're just like, we're just going to forget about that title guy who wants to be in on the call. So what I've done to alleviate some of those is we pre-send out the package to the client. So they're sort of familiar. And then I call them and just say, hey, any questions? These are going to be the documents that you're going to sign. So they're prepped in advance. So it's just a quicker signing process electronically. So we have that capability during Corona.
That's really cool. Wow. So what are your, just the last question I always ask is after COVID, AC, I mean, what do you think is going to happen with the market? It's a crystal ball, I know.
I know, crystal ball. I mean, I think that we're going to have one of two reactions. I mean, from a market standpoint, I think that we're either going to have the snapback economy where literally everything is on a hold time frame right now, and in 30 days or whatever, probably more than 30 days. Let's be honest. I think we're in for a little bit longer haul on maybe some stay at home and other things. I mean, we know that in Virginia, it's June 8th right now. And that can be amended, but regardless, when this thing is sort of over, or at least, you know, reduced in its capacity, I think you're either going to have that snapback economy like a rubber band where we've just been stretching it one way and you'll see it release and we'll sort of maybe go back to a busy market. Or I think you're going to see the complete 180 where, you know, the economic downturn that this could potentially create long term could have some significant effects, and that'll work its way into the housing market sort of naturally. I think the benefit to us being where we are is we're insulated on a certain level. I mean, we have a ton of government jobs, which for the most part haven't been affected. We have a ton of government contracting jobs, which for the most part haven't been affected.
Yeah.
So I think those are the positive aspects of at least our location.
Yeah.
How the economy overall affects us, I think that's total crystal ball. I think that if it's bad, it will be sort of the opposite of our economic policy, which has typically been like a trickle down economy. I think you're going to see a trickle up recession if that occurs. I think where it'll start on a micro level where the mom and pop is affected, and that spreads to the bigger companies versus the bigger companies spreading down. I think that's what you'll see probably on a local level, depending on how long this takes.
Yeah.
And how long that is. I'm not the doctor or the Christian. But
above your pay grade, right?
Yeah, I mean, totally above my pay grade. But after Corona, I think that some of the positive effects, not of the virus itself, but maybe on the industry, is we have just about every jurisdiction in Virginia now e-recording transactions. So that's huge. Stafford County, for instance, that affects us for the longest time refused, would not e-record.
Yep.
And now since this, I think they realize like, oh yeah, we really don't want people coming by and dropping off documents that could be contaminated. And I think they looked at the risk reward and went, we're just going to start electronically recording.
Yeah.
We had a scare with Spotsylvania at the very onset of this, where they were sort of mulling over closing, and in fact did close one day.
Wow.
We're open on a Friday. Monday comes closed. It was a big shock for us because we had closed a couple transactions on Friday, and Spotsy doesn't e-record or didn't.
Yeah.
And we've
get their money until the deed's recorded. So
it's closed. And we can't disperse now because we can't record.
Yeah.
So it was like this real deep breath and hold your breath of like, holy cow, what's going to happen? And I think that they got enough calls to where the Virginia Supreme Court ended up putting out a ruling saying that essential functions were going to remain open at every courthouse. And that included the recordation of deeds and land records.
Yeah.
So the good news is that Spotsylvania sort of came around. And they decided in the early onset that they were going to have a drop box from say like 9 to 11 in the morning, I think is what their hours were. So basically, if you didn't have your documents in that box, it wasn't going to happen that day.
Got it.
They quickly, I think, realized the same thing that Stafford did and said, time out, we're going to start e-recording. So the good news is that produced e-recording in 2 counties that we didn't have it before, that we primarily work in. I think now, with the exception of some of the pretty rural counties, a lot of counties in our service area are all e-record, which is nice.
That's great.
And I hope that continues. And I hope we don't revert back. I think that would be a real big shame for us to revert back to the old way. So I'm hopeful that those continue.
Yeah, I think in general, a lot of the changes that we're making right now, not all of them, but a portion of them will continue. Like a lot of people that are working from home realize, hey, wait a minute, I'm actually more efficient. Now, sometimes it's not, but hey, on this particular case, I'm more efficient. I'm saving money on gas or whatever. I'm a happier employee and I'm cranking out the work. So why not work from home? There's going to be a lot more telecommuting, a lot more things like that.
And I think companies are going to recognize that too. I think it'll be interesting to see the economic data that comes out from a production level internally from a lot of these companies. Is it going to show, well, our productivity is way up since people have been telecommuting and teleworking. I think it's going to be interesting. It's probably a 50-50 proposition, as most things are. It's either going to be effective or it's not. But
I was thinking outside the box anyway.
And I mean, what the other thing that I was reading an article on the other day is just the effects on our health. Regardless of the virus, I mean, you can probably speak a little bit to that. You have a little bit of a health background there. But I think that people are starting to exercise more, and that, being at home is creating, the opportunities to go for walks with your family, to get outside of your house, at least locally, and and exercise a little
They
more.
said
So
people are spending more time outdoors now that they're locked in their homes, which is
I mean, it's crazy, right? You would think that we're the video game era, so to speak, and you got like kids like, I want to go outside. Like,
yeah. No,
hold
so
up,
there's definitely some positives there as
for
well.
sure.
I'm looking forward to. I miss my grandson. That's my main thing. I can't. He lives close by, but I can't see him yet, or can't.
I know my
I can
parents are
FaceTime
saying
him.
the same
You know,
thing
that
about
kind of
our
thing.
kids.
But I think that there are. I'm always a glass half full person, so I think there are a lot of positives that are going to come out of this. But
So what do
Patrick,
you
thank you.
think?
Well, go
What
ahead.
do you think?
Go ahead.
What do you think is going to happen with the market?
I think it's going to come back. I think it's just going to be the housing market itself. I think is just going to shift, at least here locally in the DC area, because as you said, it's the government contractors, it's the military, and they don't stop. You know, every 4 years they're moving in and moving out. That doesn't stop. So my guess is the spring season's still going to hit. It's just going to look like an early summer season, I'm thinking.
So basically, a summer market instead of a spring market.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, I've sold houses. I closed a house on the day after Christmas last year. I mean, there's no market there's no time of year when people don't buy and sell houses.
No doubt, and I mean we're in that area.
Yeah, exactly.
So
So I'm hopeful. So
perfect.
yeah. But Patrick, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time. Again, I
Thanks.
love you guys at Bridge Title, and like I said, if I have a choice, I always try to use you because you're awesome. And but I do thank you for your time, and God
No
bless you.
problem. Stay safe. God bless.
Thank you. Bye bye now.